Hello and welcome to my video. If you're finding this, you're probably finding it because you have booked a cruise or you're about to book a cruise and you've got a toddler and you've got a lot of questions. When I was booking for my toddler for the first time, I had a lot of questions and I wasn't able to find a lot of those answers in the central spot. So I wanted to make a video to hopefully kind of put all that in the same spot and make it a little bit easier for someone else out there. Outside of watching YouTube videos, something else that really helped me was Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group called Royal Caribbean for Families by Moms at Seas that is run by a group of TA mothers, and it was incredibly useful. A lot of moms in there post reviews about different sailings and different ships, and I got a lot of really good information out there. So just a little bit of background before we get into it. This was my 10th cruise and my daughter's 3rd cruise. She has previously sailed on Wonder and Icon as well. So going into this one, her expectations are a little high, so mind you that. Also, mind you, my daughter is very shy. She is not the most social human in the world, but she is very energetic. So a lot of her opinions and a lot of really what we found interesting and fun on this ship was really based off of that information. As for the booking, we booked a 3-night. We were in a guaranteed ocean view balcony. We ended up in room 7320, which is portside aft. This particular sailing only went to Coco Cay, which is fine with us because it's our favorite port. And something else that was super cool about this sailing is that it was right around Christmas time, so we got a lot of Christmas activities as well. So getting to the port was rather easy for us because my family lives in town in that area, so they were able to drop us off right at the terminal. Getting to the terminal was probably about a 10-minute wait. It wasn't very long at all. If you're not familiar with the process at all, when you pull up, they will take your bags, so make sure your bags are tagged when you pull up to the terminal. They'll take your bags right there and you don't have to carry them in. Getting inside, checking in was considerably easy. There was a little bit of a line, but all we had to do was double check our documents, and they retook our photo for our SeaPass card. Then we proceeded to get onto the ship. We were actually able to board a little bit early because we got there a little bit before our check-in time, and there was not much of a line, so we were able to get in pretty quick. One really important piece of information: if you are traveling with babies and you intend to use the nursery, you want to make sure you go straight to Adventure Ocean when you get on the ship. There are limited time slots for each baby on board, so you want to go up there first and make sure that you sign them up for the times that you desire. There is a limited amount of time that they are allowed to be signed up front. Depending on the sailing, sometimes you can go back on day 2, see if there's any other available time, and sign them up for more further. But all of it is dependent on how many babies are on board at the time. Also, when you go to Adventure Ocean, you will have to still register all of your toddlers and your kids to be signed in and out of Adventure Ocean, and this will definitely speed up the drop-off process. And once you're done with that, you can head down to the Windjammer Buffet for lunch. But don't forget to washi. In Windjammer, you're going to find a very large variety of international cuisines and American cuisines. One thing about Windjammer on day 1, though, is that it is very busy, and you might have a hard time finding seats, but I promise you they're there. You just have to keep looking. After we finished eating, we like to go around and explore the ship and see what all the ship has to offer. So the next place we're going to head down to is the Central Park area. Now this area of the ship is very beautiful because it's lots of live plants. This is also a really good area to hide duckies. If you're not familiar with cruising duckies, look it up. It's a trend where people like to hide rubber duckies throughout ships, and this is something that is a trend throughout the whole cruise industry. Just make sure that if you are hiding them in this area that you're very mindful of those plants, as we don't want to damage them. But this was absolutely one of my toddler's favorite things to do. Every single night she would ask to go down to either the boardwalk or Central Park or down to the promenade to search for rubber duckies. I do want to take this time to talk about a couple different upcharges that I think are valuable. We, in our time sailing, have never been people that have booked drink packages or upcharged dining packages. That stuff isn't to us worth it. But what I do think is worth it is the photo package. And They do generally come with a very hefty cost up front, but as someone who is very invested in photography and having those special moments documented, it's been very important to me in our past sailings to make sure that those photos are ours to keep. So I always get a photo package. I think they're valuable. That's something that I would recommend to anybody. If you're even considering it, just bite the bullet and do it, because I think you're going to think it's worth it. One more thing that I purchased that I thought was valuable is on some of the newer ships they have what they call WOW bands, which are essentially your key card but on a bracelet that you can wear. It can essentially replace everything that key card does, with the exception to getting on and off the ship. You do have to have your key card to get on and off the ship, but outside of that, those WOW bands can be used for various activities, for purchasing drinks, purchasing merchandise and food and stuff like that, and getting into your room. Now, we weren't able to get a whole lot of footage of Adventure Ocean because the open house was closed by the time that we got down there. So we did go check it out just to kind of see what we could see from the outside. A lot of it was closed though, unfortunately. One cool thing about some of these newer ships is that you'll find some of them will have an indoor play space. So this is an open play space. This space is open at any time, does not require any kind of staff to be there to supervise your children. However, it does require that you're there to supervise. But it is an enclosed space for your kids to come and play and kind of get some energy out that is not outside. We were able to get some footage of the 6 to 12 room. This room was super cool. I know my daughter's really looking forward to being in a space that's like this when she gets a little bit older. But some of the cool things that came with this room, there was a foosball table, there were interactive play tables that had video games on them, there were TVs in there was a touch tunes where they could request music. It was super cool, and I think kids of that age would definitely really enjoy this space. Now, as for my own daughter, she is not the most social person in the world, so we did try to check her into the kids club one day for kids of her age. She is 4 years old, so by default, of course, 4-year-olds have a lot of energy and they like to be loud and play, and so we tried to check her in. She did not enjoy that. It was overwhelming for her, so we weren't able to actually check her in at all. There was a day that we did go in to check out the space during their operation. Now, my daughter went in, it was right when they were closing, so there was no one there at the time. So she was able to look at it, so she enjoyed the space. She just doesn't enjoy it when there's a lot of people. And the space was really nice. I've heard nothing but good things about people's experiences with the kids club, and the staff was really nice when we interacted with them. They tried to help us with dropping her off, and it just didn't work out for us, unfortunately. Now, because we went around Christmas time, there was a couple cool little Christmas features that you would find around the ship. One of them being that you could mail a letter to Santa. They also had various Christmas trees spread out throughout the ship. All right, let's talk about our room. So we had a guaranteed ocean view balcony room that we booked through our travel agent. We ended up in room 7320, which is port side. It is also aft, and though it was very far down the back of the ship, I did not feel any movement or anything like that, and it was not noisy whatsoever. The walk was a little long, but it was totally fine. Something that's really cool that some people don't really realize when they're sailing out of Port Canaveral There's a lot of really fun stuff that you might find in port. So as we're looking out our balcony, we saw a SpaceX booster. So keep your eyes peeled if you're sailing out of Port Canaveral. Back inside, I felt like we had ample space. We had a trundle bed for the toddler, ample closet and storage space for our 3 nights worth of clothing that we brought. If you're traveling with several suitcases or larger suitcases, there is plenty of room under those beds. We were able to put 2 full-size suitcases under there. I would say you could probably safely fit maybe 6 at least. Now let's talk a little bit about the refrigerator that's in the room. Fun fact, it's not actually a refrigerator, it's just a cooler and is not intended to keep perishables in it. So if you're traveling with anything like milk, don't put it in there as it will not stay good. If you're a breastfeeding mother and you need somewhere to store milk, you will need to request a medical refrigerator for that. One downside to sailing is that there are no bathtubs in the bathroom, so if you do have a toddler or a baby, they will unfortunately have to shower. They will not be able to bathe unless you bring an inflatable bath or have a suite. Now down to the hustle and bustle of the promenade, where you're going to find a lot of useful things, one of those things being coffee. Now when it comes to coffee, there's a couple different options in regards to how you pay or what kind of packages you get. When I've sailed the last few times, I've gotten the Cafe Select card, which allows you 15 punches on this card throughout your sailing. That means 15 espresso shots. It's something that I really enjoy. I'm able to get my money's worth out of it, and it's usually just about $30 or so. Now, my daughter's number one favorite area of the ship was the play structure that is on the aft of the ship. There is a lot of different climbing structures and a lot of different activities out there for her. We spent several hours every day out here just for her. This was absolutely her favorite part, and she preferred this absolutely over the kids club even. I do want to point out one interesting fact, though, about this pink slide here. My daughter got hurt on it because it's so fast, and I did notice other children coming out saying that it was so fast that they were getting hurt. So just mind you that that pink slide is a little swift. Also on the aft of the ship is the Ultimate Abyss dry slide, which is for older kids and adults. On day one boarding, probably about 2 hours after we boarded, this is what the line looks like. So mind you, there might be a little bit of a line when you go to ride it. But if you weren't aware, yes, it is included in your cruise fare. Also included in your cruise fare is the flow rider, unless you get a private lesson. Outside of private lessons, though, it is complimentary. As is the putt-putt that is on the ship, which is something else that my daughter really enjoyed. She wasn't particularly good at it, didn't quite grasp the concept of it, but we did have fun, and again, it is complimentary with your fare. One of my favorite things about Oasis class ships and Utopia is the boardwalk area. So we are avid amusement park goers. We go to amusement parks all the time, and this area just feels like home to us. Having a carousel in the ocean is just something that is so wild and awesome at the same time that we thoroughly enjoy this area. Not to mention that overall vibe here is just super cool. All the pictures of amusement parks on the sides, having hot dogs on the boardwalk, the carousel horses, all of that. The whole vibe of the area is just super fun and energetic. And they also host a lot of like children's events out here, which we'll talk a little bit about a little bit later on. But there is also like arcade games out here, but there's also the sports bar right here. So if you want to enjoy the boardwalk with your kids, but also be close to the game that's playing on the TV, that's right there as well. I will warn you though that they do have the candy store right here on the boardwalk. So when you come out to ride the carousel, your kid is absolutely going to see it and they're absolutely going to go in there and ask to buy candy. Obviously, this candy is not complimentary and you do have to purchase everything that's within those doors. So mind you, if you watch the boardwalk and your kid sees Sugar Beach, they're probably going to want to go in there and grab some candy too. And if you weren't aware, yes, the carousel is included in your cruise fare. It does have limited hours and it does have height restrictions, so be mindful of that when you go out to ride it. Something else that was really cool out here that my daughter really loved was this cute little climbing structure right here. While we're in this area, one thing I do want to talk about is shows. Generally speaking, on these larger, newer ships, you are supposed to book your shows ahead of time. Because we did book our sailing last minute, we weren't able to book our shows. But if you aren't aware, for shows, you can actually go to the box office on boarding day and still book. They only actually open about 30% of booking ahead of time. So once people board ship, you are still able to book the shows. Alternatively, if you're not able to book those shows, they do have standby lines at all of the shows also that you can join 15-20 minutes early and hopefully still get a spot. We were able to do it for the Aqua show. But also, mind you, if you look around in this area, it is an open theater area. So even if you aren't actually able to get in and get a seat, you can still watch the show from the boardwalk. Something else that was really cool about this carousel that I don't think a lot of people have noticed is that this carousel is wheelchair accessible. I did not notice anybody using it, but I did see the attachment points for it when I was there. And here's where you're going to spend a ton of money. One more thing I wanted to point out is that the decorative carousel horses on the boardwalk are not intended for people to sit on. I did see children sitting on them. Please don't let your children sit on them. They are art pieces. The Pesky Parrot is a new addition bar to this ship, and though I was not able to actually enjoy myself, I did walk through and I thoroughly enjoyed the vibe in there. It was very tiki bar, and there was a really cool animatronic parrot in there as well. And if you're not familiar with it, Sorrento's is a pizza place that is a staple on Royal Caribbean ships that is open very, very late. I think generally speaking, it's open until about 3 a.m. So you can get your pizza until 3 o'clock in the morning. Also on the promenade is where you're going to find their logo shop, so any of your Royal Caribbean or Utopia of the Seas gear that you're looking for, this is where you're going to find it. Something else that's been really cool with newer ships is destination elevators, where you tell it which deck you're going to and it assigns you a elevator based on where that elevator is currently headed. Now headed down to the solarium. If you aren't familiar with solarium, it is the adult-only area on Royal Caribbean ships. The one on Utopia of the Seas is absolutely beautiful, complete with its cantilever hot tub right over the side of the ship. Now, if you've been reading any recent reviews on Utopia of the Seas, you may have seen something about it being a party ship. I can tell you that as a mother, I did not witness that. I did not experience any part of the sailing that felt like it was a party ship any different than any other royal ship that I've been on. I never got that vibe. I thought it was totally appropriate, very family oriented, so I saw no issues with it. So don't believe what you read on the internet.
Your hands, come on, let's do it now. What you want to? You can wash your Barbie.
So we ended up doing the standby line for the aqua show, which was totally fine because this is the view that we got. We were technically in the splash zone, which was fine. The show was incredible and totally worth it, and I would absolutely do it again. And if you haven't been on a Royal Caribbean cruise in recent years, you've been missing out because this is the quality of talent on these ships recently. All of these performers on this ship were amazing. So this was a family event they hosted out on the boardwalk. Out here, they had a lot of different things going on. One of them being they were making cotton candy, which was an upcharge, but still enjoyed it. They also had other sweet treats out there. There was popcorn that you could purchase as well. The carousel operators dancing and having a good time also. They were doing family dancing. There was assorted games that your kids could play to earn tickets. They could get these tickets to be entered into a raffle to win miscellaneous prizes. Unfortunately, we didn't win any, but we were enjoying playing either way. This was their headliner show. Again, incredible talent. And my daughter was able to sit through it totally fine, no issues. She enjoyed watching the show also. Now, something that's super cool and unique about Utopia of the Seas is the Royal Railway Utopia Station. Unique specialty dining. It is essentially you're going on a train ride while you're on the ship for dinner. It is an upcharge, and it is a pretty hefty upcharge, but it was totally worth it. We really enjoyed it. We enjoyed all the theming that was involved, the quote-unquote show that comes with it. We were not able to record it all during the show, but I did take various pictures. But it was totally awesome, and my daughter was really invested in the story, and the whole time we were on the train ride, she kept looking down at the map and asking where we were at on the map, and she was talking about the bad guys that were on the train. I do want to preface that these bad guys aren't actually scary. They were really just playful and funny, actually. So we thoroughly enjoyed it. The food was delicious. All the little details and the theming and everything that was put into it, I definitely think made it worth it. A lot of people have been complaining about the price of it, but for us being amusement park goers, this is something that's totally up our alley, and we really thoroughly enjoyed it.
I got a photograph. You think it looks like me? It does, doesn't it?
Now off to Coco Cay. We actually got off the ship pretty late in the day because there wasn't a whole lot we wanted to do because we've been here several times. But in this particular sailing, the balloon was actually running, so that was the only excursion that we booked for the entire trip. So outside of going on the balloon, we did go to the beach. We also checked out the pirate ship splash pad. As for this balloon, this was something that was super cool and unique for us because we've been here several times, but the balloon's never actually been running because it does get quite windy on the island and it can't run in high winds. So this is the first time that we've actually seen it running, so we needed to make sure that we actually got to do it. As for the pirate ship splash pad, there are multiple areas throughout the island that your kids can play complimentary that does not require any kind of upcharge, this being one of them. This is the only area that my daughter was interested in playing because the other children's areas are very overwhelming and lots of splashing, and my daughter does not like things splashing in her face. She doesn't like water getting in her eyes. She doesn't like a lot of rambunctious kids. So this area was a little bit quieter, wasn't quite as much splashing water everywhere. It was more so of a playground more than anything. So she enjoyed this area more than other areas. But she did also enjoy going to the beach and just building sandcastles and stuff like that. I do want to point out also that they do not have complimentary sand toys or anything like that. So if you are going to Coco Cay, I would definitely recommend bringing your own beach toys. So bringing anything that you would require for sandcastles or snorkeling or anything like that. That way it's cheaper for you and it keeps your kids occupied on the beach. And finally, I was able to do the zip line on the ship. This is complimentary, included in your cruise fare, and totally awesome. It's really quick, but totally worth the experience, in my opinion.